Should I stay here or?
If you want, you can stay there, and I can give you this thing, put it in front of you without touching the button. Is it okay if I record you?
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so I already introduced myself shortly before, but just to remind you, I'm Jan. I studied at University College in Maastricht, and what I didn't say before is that I studied development economics there. It's a combination, at least at UCM, was a combination of almost all economic courses that they offered there, together with some development studies courses, but also political science, international relations, and international law. This I did for several years, and as many of us, I also encountered kind of the difficulties that we have with our economic courses, especially because the courses in our faculty are given by the economics faculty, so the School of Business Economics Sebastian is from. And they also have a little bit of a reputation to be very traditional and conservative in their teaching. What I can share with you is a little bit how we started this initiative at UCM and how it is later expanded to SBE. I think Sebastian can explain. And then Tara, who is now still active in Pine UCM, can explain what is the current state of affairs and maybe what are the plans for this semester. Because I'm not really up to date for the last few months as I graduated in January. But I was involved in the setting up of the group in September and October and November, so I can talk a little bit about that. We started in September, although the idea was already there before. It was actually already a year in our minds that we should start some group against or in favor of something different or against the current thing. But we weren't really very specific yet, so we started in our last semester in September, as I said. It was me and 3 other fourth-year students, so we extended a little bit. And before we left, we actually wanted to contribute a little bit, to this economics discipline at UCM. Also because we knew we were not the only ones that have this critique. Actually, everyone who took an economic course at UCM thought more or less the same about it. Right, so how do we do this? I'll give some practical details on what kind of steps we took and what I think, if you want to start a group yourself at your university, what you could do yourself. We divided our kind of plan up in 3 main phases, very globally, with our phase 0 being the whole preparatory thing. Phase 1 being more the convincing people and preparing ourselves more in depth. And phase 2 being actively lobbying and going to the university itself. I'll repeat this in a later moment where I go a little bit more into detail. And this preparatory phase, the phase 0, was maybe 4 weeks or so, not too long, because we wanted to involve other students as soon as possible. So not set up everything and make all plans and rules just with the 4 of us. I think it was very important to really include the students that are interested in this and not to create this kind of leading board and then the executing students that just do all the dirty jobs. It was very important there was kind of a coherent group. However, we did start up with the 4 of us to create kind of the main foundations, main guidelines. And for this, I think it's very important also if you want to start the group yourself, to specify for yourself what's your purpose, what's your goals, and what's your strategies. So really, those are 3 very separate things. A purpose is something I think we all agree on, which we all have the same. It's really an ideal or something that you don't really achieve yourself, but it's something you work towards. So this would be more pluralism in economics education in general, or more critical leaders or academics, something like this. You can define this for yourself, obviously, but this is something that is more or less shared. Then the goals is a lot more specific, and it's a little bit more dependent and conditional on your context and your university. So for us, we decided that we wanted to separate our goals in 2 groups. On the one hand, we wanted to have a more diverse, a more pluralist curriculum. So we really wanted to change the curriculum by adding courses or changing courses. And on the other hand, we wanted to make students more critical. And really as a specific goal that within, I don't know how many years, we didn't really specify the time span that concrete, but we really wanted to have students become more critical. And these were our two main goals, and obviously you can split this out in separate things like changing the courses, making new courses, adding guest lectures, these kind of things. Especially changing the curriculum would be really with the university, and making students more critical would be more with the students themselves. Then you come to the part of the strategies, which is very specific. What are we actually going to do? So we know what we want to achieve, but what are we going to do? And this also, again, related to the two goals. So for changing the curriculum, we wanted to first write a report and then lobby with the university. And for making students more critical, we wanted to organize events and activities and guest lectures and really create an outreach to the students, and also obviously to the academics at the university, to the professors, because you need to involve them somehow as well. Yeah, so this is very broadly, very quickly described how we set up our plan, and we did this in the very beginning in broad terms. Obviously, you have to specify and confirm this later when we had other students join our group, especially strategies. We were very broad about this, and the actual things, what you actually will do and when, this is something you will have to decide with your fellow teammates. But the broad idea that we wanted to create activities and that we wanted to lobby with the university, that's something that we determined in the beginning, so there would be no misunderstandings or conflicts about that at a later point. We found it very useful because we noticed already by being critical about our own goals and purposes and strategies that there were some disagreements or some different views that we had to clear up. For example, for one of our teammates, one of our founding members, who's much more critical about neoclassical economics as a school itself, he wanted to have as one of the goals, or one of the purposes, I think, not having, or something like not having neoclassical economics, or something in this sphere. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was very anti this specific school. And then in the other team members, including me, we said that we should change that from targeting specifically neoclassical economics as a bad thing to introducing pluralism as a diverse teaching style. It's just an example. Your group will probably have different disagreements, but it's very important to be very explicit about it and not leave it vague and undiscussed, because it will come up at some point, and that's a little bit difficult. All right, so yes, the strategy. In the next two phases, so phase 1 and 2 we called it, but you can, this sounds a little bit geeky, maybe a little bit army-like, but in the next two parts of the plan, our giant plan, we had the outreach to the students part and the lobbying to the university part. For the students, as I said before, we created activities, and Tara will explain maybe if she wants what we did in the last few months in terms of guest lectures and what is planned. And for the lobbying to the university, so actually with the goal of changing the curriculum, we decided that until summer we wanted to create for ourselves a very good story, but also properly founded and referenced and academically responsible case for why we want to introduce changes in the curriculum. So we would have a convincing story to tell and to use when we would actually want to try to work together with the university to introduce these changes. We didn't want to start immediately talking with professors and say, you have to do this, you have to change that because, and then we would get into a very difficult discussion. I think this also brings up the problem with the reputation of academics who think we are not well informed and don't know what we're talking about. Perhaps they're right, I don't think so, but it's good to make sure for yourself that you've at least built a good story and a good case for your discussions. Then this was the plan at least, I don't know what the current state of affairs, but from summer onwards, in June, the plan was to kind of launch this report, and from summer onwards to really actively work together or talk to the university and try to introduce concrete changes, small steps, big steps, I don't know, something like this. And this report, building this case, or actually I'm going a little bit too quickly, this building this story and this concrete case, we did by means of writing a report. And this report would, on the one hand, build like, if I'm going too fast, you can ask questions later because I notice I'm saying a lot of information. But this report would have, on the one hand, kind of a framework of what is pluralism, why do we want it, what would it mean at a university like in Maastricht. And the second half of the report would be very applied, as also mentioned before, evaluating our current curriculum. So really looking at our courses and saying, we have, for example, Introduction to Microeconomics, and we think, and it looks like this, and we think this is not good, because, going back to your theory in the first half that you explained, it's not pluralist, etc. Thereby really creating a clear story why the current curriculum at UCM, at our university, at our faculty, is not good, and what we should do to change it. This report is, I think, now in progress, and I hope, or the plan was to have it done at the end of the semester. It's a very ambitious plan. Also, the curriculum evaluations at the other universities was also a very big project. So I don't know. Maybe it will change. I mean, you have to be a little bit flexible about it, but that was the idea at least. And yeah, so that's the current phase, and then the plan was to, after summer, really go more actively towards the university and propose changes. What's important to note there, by the way, is that we also decided in the beginning that we didn't want to work against the university, but more with the university, which sounds very idealistic, but I think is the only way to really try to achieve something. We noticed that our faculty, actually, the teachers were very open-minded and willing to introduce changes. Not all teachers, but some people in the board of the university, and they helped us with their leverage to, for example, arrange meetings with the dean of the economics faculty, and the dean of our faculty also wanted to be there. And through these means, we noticed that it was much more effective to share our story and try to introduce changes than being very polemic and offensive, because this creates a very defensive attitude at the professor's side, and if they don't want to change something, they don't have to change something. So this will most likely not bring any results. So this is very quickly a little bit how we went through our first half year from an idea to a more concrete plan and group. Halfway also, or a little bit in the beginning, SBE students joined our meeting and decided to start their initiative. But because the conditions at SBE are completely different, their goals and their strategies will be very different. And I mean, that's a very, I think, important thing to remember, that everybody applies it in their own way, as long as kind of the purpose or the idea would be the same. So if you have any questions, you can ask it now or later, and I'm happy to share some experiences, but also we're also a young group, so we don't know all about it. But yeah, thanks.
In this report, did you go for like fundamental changes within the bachelor, or just small changes? Because what I'm struggling with is that, for example, the basis of economics, of micro, of macro, that it's well, it's pretty fundamental, and I'm pretty sure if I will discuss this with teachers, they will say, yeah, but I mean, students will have to get the basis of these subjects.
Yep.
So I was wondering, what was the main message of your report?
Well, the report is not done yet, so I can't say for sure what the message will be. But a little bit the approach I think we had was that we mostly want to look at why it's not pluralist at the moment, and then and then the changes which would happen. This we didn't want to say already in the report at the beginning, to be very specific, like to propose very specific and concrete changes. Because for this you need to involve the university of what is realistic and what is possible. And by presenting already, and also this is a form of arrogance, I think, to already say that you know exactly how a course would look like, I think you don't gain any support within the university. So it was more about showing the problem than proposing very concrete solutions, because this would be together with the university.
I still view it as a sort of power play, because in our department, Utrecht, we show off with the fact that we have multidisciplinary economics and so on. And indeed, we start to introduce that in the mainstream courses. In the microeconomics course, it tell you about psychology, sociology, and you even read papers. But when it comes to actually bringing the people from psychology department from Utrecht University, which is actually a very good department, or sociology department, they don't do that. They stay isolated. I asked even the rector Nicholas when he came to our department, bring this guy, there's an economic historian, I think it's a member of the WRR, Bas van Bavel, bring him to teach or to give a guest lecture about inequality, or, make the link between the history department and the economics department if you want to have multidisciplinary. And still nothing, they're not responsive in that respect. And I don't know how to make it more visible than that.
Invite him yourself. I'm sure he will come.
Bas van Bavel, yeah, I mailed him. He said, I mailed him about an interview for our magazine because I wanted to make an interview about inequality in the Netherlands. He mailed me back. He said he doesn't have time. So
He doesn't have time.
yeah, I needed somebody from the department to actually, not order him. It's another level of discussion. It's between well-established professionals, not between a cocky student and a famous professor. So.